So those are just a couple samples of the shots that you can take with this camera. I thought this camera was so interesting that I wanted to make this video, obviously. And you know, even though it has a couple quirks, I do think that they got a lot of things right with this camera. And if you're looking for something that's kind of like an everyday carry type of camera, I think this is a pretty good option. We're going to talk about some of the pros and cons of this camera and kind of just do a little bit of an informal review. This is definitely not a full-on formal review. This is just a camera that I liked, so I wanted to talk about it. So let's begin. So one of the big pros of this camera is obviously the size and portability and kind of the pocketability of this camera. That's kind of what you're looking for, most people, in an everyday camera, especially if you're going to go against the point and shoot option that does have a fixed lens. Obviously this one being able to switch out your lens does make it a little bit larger, but this one I think actually, as you can see here, fits nicely into the hand. It's not too large. As you can see here in this example of the two bags that I have, this evergreen bag that I carry around with me on a daily basis is only a 2-liter bag. And you can see it's a little bit smaller than this 4-liter PGY Tech bag I have, but yet this camera still fits in there. I think it truly is something that you're gonna want to take with you every single day, and you're not gonna feel like it's, you know, lagging around or lugging around a big, you know, more professional style camera. So another thing great about this camera is it has a built-in flash, which is something that I haven't used on previous cameras. I used to own a Canon Rebel T7i, and I've never used a flash on that thing, but it is cool to have in a pinch if you really need it, if you're lacking light. But more so what I've been using it for that I think is kind of interesting is just more stylistic and creative things. I've used it on a couple of shots that I probably wouldn't have tried in the past without a built-in flash. And obviously if you guys have seen online, especially on Instagram, like that kind of 90s, early 2000s aesthetic with a lot of flash shots is really big right now. So it's a cool tool to have to use. You're not going to use it all the time, but it is really cool to have, especially at this price point. Another thing that I love about this camera is the JPEGs look great straight out of camera. So much so that I used to shoot JPEG plus RAW in this camera. I just shoot JPEGs now, which is such a big thing because if you're shooting RAW, obviously that means that you're gonna have to go and you're gonna have to color grade. So there's a lot more to do. And you know, somebody like me who has ADHD and autism, like if I can eliminate as many things in the process of me being creative as possible, then that's just a huge win for me. And the thing is, I've actually even played around with the colors on these JPEGs too. They're not like some of the JPEGs I've used in the past where they just have no room to push and pull the colors and the exposure. Like you can still grade these a tiny bit if you want to, but with the recipes that are built in and the quality of these JPEGs, like being able to just shoot and kind of like move on and get on to the next thing after you're done is a super big thing for me. Okay, so this is kind of a funny one. Having the EVF, I do think is a pro. Essentially, I was looking at this camera or the Lumix XS9. Wow, that was a mouthful. The Lumix was really like something I wanted to get, but it didn't have an EVF. And I come from a background of shooting wildlife and sports and all those kind of things where like you're glued to the EVF the whole time. And the funny thing is I've gotten this Fuji and I haven't even used the EVF like hardly at all. I mean, long story short, I do think that now, if you're looking at a camera in this kind of everyday carry range and it doesn't have an EVF, honestly, I don't think it's that big of a deal. It's not gonna be a deal breaker for me in the future if I get a different camera. I do a lot of just kind of like pulling up, snapping things, quickly getting shots, and you're not gonna use the EVF for that. So something that I definitely coming into it thought was gonna be a big deal, isn't a big deal, but still nice to have, especially for under $1,000. So another one that's not necessarily like a huge deal breaker, but it's nice to have. Battery life on this thing is actually pretty decent. If you're taking this on like an actual production shoot, like you're on set and you need to shoot for 6 to 8 hours, then no, this isn't gonna be the camera for you, or you're gonna have to buy multiple batteries. But if you're just going out shooting for a couple hours, like I've mostly done with this camera, just last weekend we went to Park City and walked around for 3-4 hours. I didn't keep it on the whole time, but I was powering it on and off the whole time, and I didn't even get below 50% on the battery life. This thing, you're gonna get through a full day of shooting with this thing, no problem. Okay, a really big one as far as when you're looking for a camera, lens selection. So obviously looking for an everyday carry camera, you're gonna want a nice, small, compact, portable lens to also go with it, because that just obviously makes it easier to pack in your bag and to be able to use on the go. And so the Fuji X mount, this is an APS-C camera. The Fujifilm X mount has a ton of options for small, little, compact lenses. And a lot of them even are fast lenses too. So we're looking at f2.0 and below. So this one, I have the Viltrox 25mm, which is equivalent about a 40mm full frame, 1.7, f1.7. So you can still get really nice bokeh out of this thing, a fast lens, so it'll be good in low light. And I'm telling you, this is a sub $200 lens. There's tons of options out there. From third-party brands and even Fujifilm themselves. You're definitely going to be able to find pretty much any lens that you want to pair with this thing. Okay, so lastly for the pros, and the big separator between this camera and a lot of Fujifilm cameras and the rest of the competition are your film recipes. So with Fujifilm, you have these built-in film recipes that are supposed to be kind of like film simulations that have a similar look, not quite exactly the same, but a similar look to the way that film cameras shoot their, turn out with their shots. Nice kind of a soft tone on most things. And this is kind of like a pro and a con, which is going to lead us into our cons, is that like I do like a lot of these film recipes, the simulations, and you can even build in your own recipes if you want to, and there's a couple buttons for that. Like I really like the Reala Ace, I like the Astro, or was it Astro? Acros, and I've used Velveeta, Vivid, Provia, Nostalgic Neg. Like I've used a couple of these before, but like the con with that, and that'll kind of just take us nicely into the con section, is that like I don't think that you need a full button for that. There's like 10 slots that you can put these film simulations on. And like, I only use a couple of them. So I would think that it'd probably be better if they swapped the film sim dial and this little drive button. But now they have all the film recipes on there, and I just think it's probably practically like not the best use of these dials up here, which I do think is a selling point. I love having these manual dials and not having everything in the menu. But the thing is, I hardly ever use this film sim one, and I never use the exposure compensation one. It's always set to 0. If I can get this to focus. Out of the 3 that are here, I'm really only using the shutter speed one, which I do love. That's actually a huge plus for me. But I just feel like the space could be better used. Like maybe instead of this exposure compensation one, maybe that's used for like if you could change your ISO, or maybe if they can make it to you can change your aperture that way. Obviously you have your little dials here that can change, but the thing is, this dial in the front, you have to toggle back and forth between not white balance, between ISO and your aperture, which is kind of a bummer. And the only way to change your ISO is in like the quick menus and stuff like that. So maybe, yeah, switching this out for like the ISO would be a plus. I just think that the real estate on top could have been used better. But again, maybe that's just me. Maybe that's the way I shoot. I never use this one, and I hardly use the film sim, so I don't know. Okay, so this to me is the biggest con by far, the grip on this thing. So I have this small rig grip that's attached via this plate on the bottom, and without that, this thing would not be usable pretty much. It's super, like as you can say, it's super thin, slim, and like the distance between the handle and your lens isn't very much to grip onto to begin with. And so with the hand grip, perfectly fine. It was like 25 bucks. So if you get something like this, that problem is pretty much eliminated. If you're planning to just pull it out every once in a while, then, no big deal. But if you're looking to like take this and do some street photography or whatnot, where you have to kind of like keep it on and keep it attached as you're looking for shots and like continuously scanning and everything like that, then this probably wouldn't be the best option. Now I say the hand grip is probably the biggest issue with this camera. Secondarily, maybe even more so, is again something that's not like a huge problem, but it's just kind of difficult to deal with, and that's the video functionality on this thing. So the only way you can get to the video functionality on this thing is by clicking this trash can / drive button scrolling through the menus, going all the way to the bottom, clicking video. It takes like a second to kind of like reboot and go into video mode, and then you're in video mode. Also, haven't been able to figure out a way to shoot F-Log in this thing with like a view assist on it. So I personally like using view assist while shooting log because, you know, my brain, I see the colors and, you know, more what it looks like in real life instead of the grayed out log profile. And I would recommend always shooting log too, because, you know, you get the most color range out of it when you're grading it. So that's kind of a bummer. But again, like this is made to be like an everyday carry photo camera. So like the fact that you can't shoot, or like you still can shoot video out of it, but it makes it difficult to do so. Again, not the biggest deal. And the funny thing is that like this thing does shoot 6K open gate, which like, you know, for under $1,000 and for a primarily pocketable photo camera is kind of funny, because it's like you have Canon and Sony and Nikon like all making $3,000, $4,000 cameras that they still haven't put open gate into. So like if you really cared about open gate and like you just wanted to do that for content creation, then I guess this is maybe a decent option for you, especially at under $1,000. But then again, so does, I believe, the Lumix S9 does do open gate as well. So it's like maybe that's more your option, because the Lumix menus and like accessibility to video and all their functions is like, in my opinion, best in class. So that's a trade-off that you have to be willing to make, is if you're looking for more video out of this thing, then you know, maybe best to go elsewhere. Again, this one's being super nitpicky because like it does show that it's rated at 16 or 1.6 million dot resolution 3-inch screen, which for comparison isn't far off from the Lumix S5 IIX that I use for everything. I love that camera, and it's got a 1.8 million dot 3-inch screen. So like theoretically they're not that far off, but I do notice that when you're using this screen, like it's not the most flattering looking image. Like when you're looking back at the photos you've taken, or when you're just like looking through it at the real world, it doesn't look great. Like it looks a little bit low res and kind of like crunchy. And so I would just, you know, say that if you're looking at things on this, your photos will turn out better than what it looks like on the screen. And again, with that, last thing that's kind of a con is just like the buttons. Obviously you're missing, with a camera that's this small and compact, you're missing some pretty important buttons like your white balance and your exposure and ISO and all that kind of stuff like that. That would normally in a mirrorless camera be, you know, all on top right here. They'd be somewhere around here, all your buttons. But this thing doesn't have it. So again, that's one of those things where like for the camera that it is and the camera that it's trying to be, like that's a trade-off I'm willing to take. It is a little bit annoying, and it's something that you'd miss, especially coming from if you've shot on mirrorless or DSLR cameras that have all your buttons that you need to go to up top. It just makes it like a little less intuitive, and like you have to kind of remember the menus more. And so that kind of wraps it up for this thing. Like honestly, my overall thoughts for this, and you know, all of those little cons and quirks that we just talked about, are not why you would get this camera. You wouldn't get this camera to be your main workhorse and to take on jobs and to book clients with. Most likely, like the reason why you get this camera and the reason why I got this camera is just to document my life, to be more on top and mindful about going out and taking pictures and trying to practice my photography and get better. And like having this thing has definitely inspired me to take more pictures and to take it with me everywhere, and to, you know, be more creative. And ultimately that's what I think this camera is good for. This thing, for what I do want it to do, does a pretty dang good job. So that's it. Thanks for watching this one, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.